Olu-Adegboruwa, you know, some of your colleagues disagree with you. First of all, due respect to your reading, because you're entitled to your own interpretation of what it is that you're reading. And, you know, some people will also ask how it is that you're able to read the president's mind. But that's on one hand. Looking at matters of law, some of your colleagues disagree with you. They say that the Constitution was not done in such a way to tie the president's hand. They say section 147 subsection 1 says there shall be such offices of ministers of the government of the federation as may be established by the president. In other words, he has the right to determine how many ministries that he also wants. In 148, they also say that the president may, in his discretion, assign to the vice president or any other minister of the government of the federation responsibility for any business of the government of the federation, including the administration of any department of government. In other words, he can give them any task that he likes. Am I reading this correctly? I'm just asking.
I wanted you to finish.
It's a question. I'm putting it.
You know, in my opening comment, I said when you want to read the Constitution,
yes,
you do a holistic interpretation.
Yes. So,
and I referred you to 4 sections.
Okay, just before I conclude, I'm just trying to say that I was asking if I was reading those sections right. Well, they are saying that the Constitution was not meant to tie the hands of the president in such a way that he would not be able to function, or especially in the circumstances that we are, where the president believes we cannot afford to have 36 ministers with 36 ministries, because that's a huge bureaucracy, according to what he's saying, that the president could, in his wisdom, decide that he doesn't want to give portfolios to certain ministers. In fact, some even go as far as saying that he didn't need to appoint 36 ministers.
Look, from my own interpretation of what you have read, when I married section 147 with 148, my understanding as a lawyer of the intent of this constitution is to say that you must have ministers to run with you as an executive president. Those ministers must come from each state of the federation. So there must be 36 plus FCT, there must be 37. Finally, those ministers must be indigenes of the states that they represent. My understanding of the whole thing is this. Anybody who is the president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria cannot do with less than 37 ministers. But he may have 50. This is my understanding of the Constitution. He may have 100. Howsoever, that in the decision to have ministers, he must have not less than 37. When you have those 37, they must have offices. But if you have 100, if you have above the minimum, the Constitution prescribes a minimum. The discretion of the president will come when there is a maximum. But once there is a minimum of that 37, he has no discretion in whether he will assign offices to them or not. Because Section 148 has now tied his hand to say, however, when you want to appoint these ministries, ensure that each state of the federation and the FCT is represented. So when the president complies with the minimum, in order to cut costs by appointing 37, they must have offices. But if he has money and he has appointed 100, all the 100 may not have offices.
Just a moment. So where do we now put this that says in his discretion, 48, the president may in his discretion assign to the vice president or any minister of the government of the federation responsibility for any business of government of the federation, including the administration, so he can assign to them any responsibility.
Mark, can you read section 49, 149?
149 says,
yes,
a minister of the government of the federation shall not enter upon the duties of his office unless he's declared his assets and liabilities as prescribed in this constitution and subsequently taken.
So what does that say to you?
Talking about
that the minister must enter into the duty of an office. He's not a robot.
As may be assigned by the president.
He's already been appointed.
In 148.
He has already been appointed. The Constitution says when you appoint him, you must appoint him to ensure that he represents a particular state. When he represents that state, he will not begin to function in office. He cannot be left.
As a minister.
Okay, so
the idea of being a minister, isn't that an office by itself?
No. Go to section 308. Because like I told you, you must do a holistic reading of the Constitution. Go to section 308, Maupe. It says, section 318 rather. Minister, it gives the definition of who a minister is. Minister means a minister of the government, not a minister of the president. There must be responsibility. There must be a function being discharged. There must be an office that he's been appointed into. He cannot just go and resume into a place and begin to look at files. There must be a designation. There must be a responsibility if the minimum is met. But if the maximum is achieved, maybe there are 40, 37 of them must have offices. The rest that are above the minimum may not have offices.
All right.
That's the interpretation.
Okay, so if we assume, just a moment, Chamberlain, if we say that that is the interpretation of the Constitution, in a case where the government cannot afford to keep it, what would you recommend?
It's not that government cannot afford. The president was sworn in under this Constitution. He was elected under this Constitution. He swore to this Constitution. There's no choice in the matter. The framers of this Constitution...
I'm asking, I mean, the Constitution, of course, does not provide the money. The Constitution, of course, you know, says how it is that you should do it to ensure fairness and equity. I'm sure that's what the framers of the Constitution had in mind. But in a case where you are running short of money, as it were, as we are currently, what do you think the president should have done?
I will probably suggest that the president will do away with 9 presidential jets and begin to cut costs around his own offices also. Because if a country is broke, I can't see how a president can be maintaining a fleet of 9 presidential jets. I will probably start from there so that charity will begin at home.
You know, yesterday...
I'll begin to cut and block all leakages.
What about
where
this
money
other
is
option?
going up.
Because if he says, I've got a challenge, and that's why he's saying, ministers, I may not, because access to funds to pay seems to be an issue here. Shouldn't we then review the Constitution that brings us to where we are today, of which the president says, I've got a challenge, I can't pay?
No. I said there is a hidden agenda. If you say the country is broke, you must give us the basis for which you are making that declaration. The source of income of Nigeria is oil, and it comes through NNPC. Can't the president pick up newspapers, Guardian, Vanguard, and publish the list of all our income and expenditure so that we truly know that the country is broke? It's not sufficient for a president to come out and say, I can't pay. Because we must know the source of our income. How much have we earned since the last 5 months? And what is happening to the money? So it's not sufficient to just sit in your office and say, I'm broke. You must give us the data by which we will conclude with you that truly Nigeria is broke. Otherwise, it will not be correct for us to say Nigeria is broke and the senators are earning 23 million per month. Legislators are earning fat salaries. How can you say you won't pay civil servants when political office holders are smiling home and they are living large?
But what about his merging? He was going to merge ministries.
That is not the reason to get resources. It's not in merging resources that merging ministry that you get resources.
But they will cut
because
down.
At the end of the day, it is the people that will suffer. These ministers are supposed to execute programs and agenda for the development of this country. Look at what is going on in this country. I had your review. There's total blackout. Generators are booming again. All over the land, there's traffic. In that traffic, there's violence. It's as if we have no government in place currently. Not just in Lagos, in Plateau, in the northeast. Everywhere there's a comatose. The economy is down. Violence is up. Electricity is down. So what exactly is the president doing with the money that he's receiving? If he's not paying civil servants, if infrastructure is not being developed, for the past 5 months since May, and we're not moving forward, so what's he using the money for? How much have we made? From now, the thieves have gone. According to the declaration we have, those who are looting the money, they have been voted out. So we have people who are preserving the money, and I respect them. Honestly, I have always said that when we look for leaders, the president and the vice president are some of the 2 citizens of Nigeria that we can vouch for. But honestly, the president has to be open. It's not sufficient for you to come and declare that we are broke. Tell us the source of your resources, how much you have earned, and what you have done with it. Then we'll be able to roll along with you. He has no choice than to appoint 37 ministers and give them offices. What excuse will you give to Ondo State or give to Enugu State for appointing somebody from that state and you make him redundant?
Well, we'll see if it means making them redundant, as you put it, even though that's maybe not what he's saying, but you said the agenda.
No, I said there's a hidden agenda. And the hidden agenda is that the president is holding us to ransom. He's delaying infrastructure, he's delaying delivery of democracy dividends so that people will begin to clamor that, in 4 years, he has not been able to perform what he should do. So we'll give him another 4 years. After that, maybe a 3rd term. That's the hidden agenda. Well,
ministers and people, not necessarily words. Well, Olu-Adegboruwa is a legal practitioner. Thank you for your comments this morning.
It's my pleasure.
Let's go over for a look at the headlines with Olumide Macaulay.